Welcome to the Narcopath free podcast. Nope, this is a YouTube channel. Welcome to the Narcopath free YouTube channel. My name is Charlotte. I'm 27 years old. I'm going to go the tell a fun fact about yourself route here. I grew up competitively playing the drums, which is usually amusing to find out about me because I'm a 5'1" little blonde girl who pretty much lives in sundresses. But don't let that surprise you. Is that the right phrase? No. Don't let that... This is how narcissistic abuse makes you. I can't speak. Whatever that phrase is. Fool you. Don't let that fool you. Because I also like to get behind a set and jam out to Sum 41. I love traveling and going on adventures, baking and decorating elaborate cakes, also cake pops. Sometimes people, like friends of friends, will randomly call me and hire me to bake stuff for birthday parties because I like to make very intricate, like little fish or ghosts for Halloween. Super fun. And my guilty pleasure is going to the car wash because the rainbow bubbles make me so happy, especially when they smell like bubblegum. Is anyone else with me on this? No? Cool. So this time, 1 year ago, I had it all. I was engaged to my soulmate and the absolute man of my dreams. I didn't even believe in soulmates until I met this guy. Like, he was just the love of my life. He was the same person as me. We had everything in common. I just couldn't even believe that I met this person. I'd recently been promoted at my job at a big bank where my boss's boss told me he thought I'd have his job one day. He literally said, you would have to burn the building down not to do well here. I was killing it. I had the most amazing and supportive family who I've never been closer to as we were planning the wedding. Plus, my 6 bridesmaids and I were so close, and we're always giddily talking about my future with my Prince Charming. We were the couple that everyone compared themselves to. They'd always say, you're so lucky, you two are perfect together. All-American is what everyone called us. I had everything I'd ever wanted. I used to say that I felt like I was on a sparkly cloud. Fast forward to today. I haven't seen or spoken to my ex-fiance since I called off the wedding. I was let go from my job. I only talk to my family when I have to because they don't understand what I'm going through. And I've isolated myself so much from my friends that I only know one of my bridesmaids is pregnant because I saw her post about it on Facebook. Ouch. I'm so confused and in a fog. I have these horrible flashbacks of my ex. Oh, get into those another time. My body is on constant high alert to the point that just hearing a door slam puts my body into a state of panic. Last week at a nail salon, I had this horrible flashback and was sent into a complete panic. I think it's kind of funny now because I can only imagine what the people there thought was going on with me. I had to have someone escort me out because I was like so terrified. Anyway, if I do sleep, I have terrible nightmares and randomly wake up gasping for air. My poor boyfriend must be so creeped out when I just wake up in the middle of the night like, poor thing. I erratically fluctuate between feeling numb and inconsolably emotional to the point that I don't think I could hold down a full-time job. I'm completely unhinged. I have no idea who I am, which is the weirdest feeling. The only thing I know about myself is that I'm like a terrible person. I don't know what happened or why I feel so alone. I literally think I've lost my mind. This was my hell of a reality until the life-changing day that I came across information on narcissistic abuse. The relief and validation that I felt can't be put into words. I know anyone listening who's experienced this knows exactly what I mean. Reading what I'd been unable to put to words and realizing that I'm not crazy, that was a big day. It was like they were writing about me, speaking directly to me. Since then, it's been a slow but steady climb out of this pit and back into the sunshine. I catch glimpses of the girl I introduced you to in the beginning of the video and am remembering who I am while also learning who I need to be so this never happens to me again. I thank God every day that it was after we got engaged and not after we got married that he became so overtly abusive that it became impossible for me not to see, despite his often successful efforts to convince me that I was crazy and I was the abusive one. He projected all of his narcissistic traits onto me and took every quality I loved about myself and either manipulated me to believe the opposite was true or that the quality made me a bad person, until I knew nothing about who I was other than that I was a bad person, which is something that I'm still struggling with. I experienced verbal abuse and random fits of rage to the point that I'd be curled up in the fetal position begging him to stop, that he was hurting me so badly. And he would either say he didn't care, laugh at me, or leave me and ignore me for days so I'd have time to, quote unquote, realize what I'd done wrong. One of these things that set him off into a random fit of rage, by the way, was I used a phone charger he didn't approve of. Okay. I'm constantly having new flashbacks. A few months ago, I was listening to a podcast on narcissists' tendency to cheat, almost in an attempt to convince myself that my ex wasn't one, because I was absolutely sure that he never cheated on me, believed that with 100% of my being. But halfway into it, started having flashbacks of a burner phone, an online dating profile he claimed was someone catfishing him, finding random clothes in the laundry several times, and okay, yeah, he was most likely cheating on me the whole time. Cool. Just last week, I had a very hazy flashback involving being scared by a knife as a joke, but really feeling very afraid. And another one of being curled up in a ball in the passenger seat because he was speeding down the highway and wouldn't slow down, and I don't know. Seriously, the things I remembered by listening to other people's completely different stories continues to shock me. But that's a big reason why I wanted to make these videos and share my story, because with every memory that bubbled to the surface and I released, which I'll go into another video how I released them, because that's crucial, I saw a brighter flicker of light at the end of the tunnel. And before there was no light at the end of the tunnel. You really got to dig into this stuff, in my opinion, to release it and move on and learn from it. Realizing the situation I was in then and the effects it's having on me now is extremely difficult. I laugh about those flashbacks now just because they're so absurd and because I've released them so they don't send me into complete despair anymore. But don't get me wrong, they did at the time. So it's very difficult to do this and go through this process of remembering everything and putting the pieces together. But it's worth it, because as much as that stinks, it at least gives me a sense of control over it to finally be aware. Because I was not on a sparkly cloud. I actually think it's kind of funny in an ironic way that I referred to myself as being on a sparkly cloud, because that's a pretty great metaphor for a person under the spell of a narcissist. When the illusion of the sparkly cloud poof goes away, as mine did when my fiancé seemingly flipped a switch and turned into a completely different person / monster shortly after we got engaged, you fall into the dark realization that you've been lied to, manipulated, gaslit, and psychologically tortured by the person you loved and trusted most in this world. And this man of your dreams never existed and never loved you. He was simply a man with a personality disorder who chose you, studied your interests, values, and dreams, and made you believe that he was your soulmate. So you'd fall in love with him, and he could start emotionally and mentally abusing you. So slowly and subtly that you didn't even realize it until it was too late. And you woke up one day and found yourself a shell of the person you were before, completely unhinged and completely alone. If that doesn't sound like the perfect plot for a horror film, I don't know what does. How did I let this happen? How did this happen? It's so hard to wrap your head around, especially if you thought of yourself as an independent, strong person before who would never let someone treat them like this. But it's like the experiment where a frog is put in a pot of boiling water and it of course jumps right out, but a frog that's put in a pot of cool water that has the heat slowly turned up won't realize it until it's too late and dies. So that's it. End of video. Just kidding. Because I didn't die in a boiling pot of narcissism, I got out. And if you did too, then let me tell you just how proud I am of you, because I know how much courage and strength that took. Seriously, you go, girl or boy. If you haven't gotten out yet, I hope the information and stories I share with you in my future videos help pull you out, like all the information and survivor stories out there helped pull me out. I'm going to share with you how I grieved the loss of the relationship and dreams that never were, learned about narcissistic personality disorder and what the abuse looks like, and accepted that this was not my fault. But certain parts of my personality, and my favorite parts that I refuse to lose, by the way, made me a target, and what that means for future relationships. With all that said, I just want to be clear that I'm not a doctor. And P.S., I highly recommend you see a doctor or therapist or some medical professional if you've experienced narcissistic abuse, because this shiz is heavy. I'm just sharing my journey as I'm on it and what's helped me in an effort to help you. This experience doesn't define us. I promise you there's light at the end of the tunnel, so let's go find it together. And my motto throughout this whole thing, whenever I am just so tired and exhausted and don't know if I can take another step, is I just shut my eyes and I sing the Just Keep Swimming little ditty from Finding Nemo. So I will leave you with that. Just keep swimming.